Hello everybody, this is Connor at BoatsDon'tSink here with another Shadowverse Evolve deck profile. This time we're going to be looking at the BP10 Chess D-Shift Rune. This is the sort of new evolution of the D-Shift Kuan deck using the new chess cards from BP10. They basically give it a lot of new spell options that solve a lot of the problems it had previously with dealing with wide boards and or being able to remove things like aura followers that otherwise we're just going to have to go down to like Crimson Meteor Storm, which was a bit slow. So we have some faster, cheaper options that are just going to generally be better for getting through the game and getting to the D-Shift win condition. As always, before we take a look at the deck list here, this is meant to be a starting point. This being a control-leaning deck, there will always be a lot of options based on sort of what the meta looks like. There's a huge variety of spells in Runecraft and even neutral spells, where each one is going to be better suited to very specific situations. So those things will change over time or in specific environments. So mess around with it, see what you like best. I do have a couple options other than what my deck list here includes that I'll talk about. But yeah, it's just meant to be sort of a starting point, get the general gist of the deck down. So, of course, we are going to see, a lot of the classic Runecraft and D-Shift cards. We still have Kuan, D-Shift, Flame Destroyer, Merlin, Angelic Snipe, Magic Owl, the usual there, Trail of Light, with some newer additions from recent sets like Veridic Discovery. And then from BP10, we have Skewer and Checkmate, in addition to the older BP2 and BP3 Blitz, Magical Strategy, and Check chess cards that are going to be helping us get to sort of our critical masses of chess cards that we need in Cemetery, while also giving us decent removal tools in the early and mid game. The Evolve deck here, we only play one card main deck that evolves, so 3 Merlin. Obviously, if you're actually playing this in a real event, just jam whatever other 7 cards you want in there so that your opponent doesn't know you're only playing 3 Merlins. You'll find on the deck log page here that there are 7 carrots in those extra slots. Personally, IRL, I like to jam just whatever the 7 coolest looking ultimate rares I have are into those slots, so do whatever you'd like. And as always, if you want to check out the deck log page for this deck, you can use the code in the bottom right, that is 176Z8, or you can use the link in the description. This deck has a very interesting curve. It's basically all 1, 2, and 3 drops. We want early game cards, cheap cards that we can jam fast to fill our cemetery. And of course, being able to use Merlin to recast our good spells out of our cemetery is fantastic. And then everything else, our top end, is our cost 8 and higher cards, with D-Shift at 12 and Kuan at 15. We have 10 followers in the deck and 30 spells. Once we hit 15 spells, all of our cards will be free, or all of our finisher followers, rather, will be free. And then once we hit 19, we can do double dimension shift plays if we need to break through higher life total opponents. Taking a look at some of the specific cards we have here. First off, we have Magic Owl. This is a 1-cost 1/1 rush. Fanfare and Last Words. You can discard a spell to draw a card. Obviously, this is going to help us fill our cemetery very quickly without losing hand size, other than the owl itself. Its best synergy is with Trail of Light, of course, since Trail of Light, when it is discarded, you are able to draw a card. So this turns Magic Owl into discard Trail of Light, draw 2, which means your hand is going to stay very healthy as you play these. And then, of course, you get another discard on Last Words, so a lot of opportunities to get those Trail of Lights out. And sometimes you'll find even that using Merlin to search a Trail of Light just so you can draw 2 cards off of one of these effects is worth it. However, even outside of Trail of Light, this is a 1 play point double discard out, which means it is very good for getting our chess spells into the cemetery quickly. Our most powerful chess spells scale off of the number of chess cards in our cemetery, and those are going to be the ones from BP10. So we want to get as many as possible into our cemetery as quick as possible. And a lot of times we won't have enough time to hard play that many, since we are going to want these online like turn 4, turn 5 at the latest. We may not have time to actually hard play all of those chest spells in that time. So Magic Owl gives us a cheap way to discard extra copies from our hand to build up our cemetery count. Next up, we have 2 copies of Angelic Snipe. Of course, just 1 cost, quick timing, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower. We are also playing 3 other deal 2 damage spells, so essentially 5 total snipes in this list. Angelic Snipe is really good against the aggressive decks right now. Anything really that's playing a 1-drop that's going to get to attack you. You really want to be able to stabilize against these decks as fast as possible, since they can burst you down really a lot of the times quicker than you're able to get your board wipes and your really powerful chess cards online, especially if you're getting hit starting from like turn 2 onwards. So being able to remove very early attackers can keep your leader defense healthy and sort of keep you in a safer spot against some of their more powerful late turns where they might have a lot of storm damage that you can't stop as easily. Next up, we have Blitz, which is our other 2 damage spell. This is 1 cost, select an enemy follower on the field, deal it X damage. X is the number of magical pawn tokens on your field, plus 2. Magical pawn is a 1 cost 2/1 that some of the chess cards make. It's primarily the followers that are going to be generating these, so we don't actually have that many ways to make them in this deck. There is a spell that we do play that generates them, so sometimes, very, very rarely, your Blitz may be doing 3 damage instead of 2. Otherwise, there is a 2-cost spell in set 10 that we don't play in this particular build. I think it's the weakest of the chess spells. And of course, all the followers can make these pawns, but we don't want any followers in this deck. And then Magical Strategy. This is the set 2 spell. This is just 1 cost, summon a magical pawn, which is of course the 2/1. So you get a 1 cost 2/1 on your field. This is generally just going to be for trading into your opponent's followers, though if you play this on the later turns of the game, you may be able to stick this around for a dimension shift, which could be 2 or 4 extra damage potentially. Otherwise, you're just jamming this on like turn 1 to get a spell on cemetery, B, a chess card in cemetery, and C, you have a body that your opponent has to at least consider dealing with. Moving into our 2 costs, we have Fire Chain. 2 cost quick timing, select 2 enemy followers on the field, deal 3 damage divided between them. This is very good removal into decks that make tokens or go wide, in particular against Sword, which is going to be one of the most powerful decks in this format. If they go second, you have 1 play point, they have 1 play point, they play Celia and Evo, you can untap and Fire Chain them so that they don't have any cheeky plays like turn 2 Romia Evo, which can really make your game go south very quickly. So Fire Chain's great for answering stuff like that. It also answers like fairy tokens, puppet tokens, any of the smaller stuff, where splitting like 2 and 1 can take out 2 bodies. We'll play 1 copy of Rhymewind. This card is quite powerful in this format. I think there's maybe a world where you could justify 2, just depending on what decks you're playing against frequently. 2 cost quick timing, select an unevolved enemy follower on the field and return it to its owner's hand. Spell chain 10, put it on top of its owner's deck instead. It has to be unevolved, but there are a lot of good unevolved targets right now. So obviously with Earthright, you still have Riley that you can put back in your opponent's hand. It doesn't remove it permanently, but if they pay 6 to get a Storm Riley and swing 6 at you, you block 6 damage and force them to find another way to get it back in their cemetery before they can give it Storm again. And then things like tokens or advanced cards, since advanced followers are not evolved, you can actually return them to hand, which sends them back to the Evo deck. And of course, tokens just disappear entirely. So there's some powerful options that you have to Rhymewind here. And then of course, just anything with strong last words effects that you want to get rid of for a little bit. Kawi in particular from Abyss decks can be very disruptive to your kill turns. And Rhymewind is one of your only efficient ways to get rid of him as well. We have 3 copies of Shikigami Summons. This is a 2-cost spell. Summon a paper Shikigami token. That is a 2-cost 2/2 last words, draw a card, discard a card. And then if there are at least 7 spells and Onmyoji cards in your cemetery, draw a card. We don't play many of the Onmyoji cards in this deck like we used to. It's just this card and Kuon himself. We've cut the Curse Crafter, Demon Collar, and anything else that was building toward our Onmyoji count. But we still care about spells, so once you have 7 spells in your cemetery, this will be drawing you a card. And of course, it itself is a spell that goes to your cemetery, and the Paper Shikigami gives you another discard out, which can help you fill your cemetery as well. We have 3 copies of Trail of Light, 2-cost spell, draw a card, but more importantly, whenever this is discarded, draw a card. So this is going to be fueling a lot of our additional card draw off of our discard effects. So Magic Owl, Veridic Discovery, and Paper Shikigami are all going to be discard outs that allow us to pitch Trail of Light to draw extra cards and fill our hand. In addition, if you are ever over hand size at the end of your turn, you can discard Trail of Light to hand size, and it will still trigger the effect to draw an additional card, which will force you to discard down to hand size again. This can be used sort of to loop ways to get like more spells in your cemetery very quickly. Veridic Discovery from set 8 is a 2-cost quick timing spell, draw 2, discard 1. This, of course, is just going to filter through our cards, find the important ones, fill our cemetery with the unimportant ones, and has great synergy with Trail of Light. So, obviously good there, and of course, good for filling our cemetery with extra chess cards without needing to play them. So this can also build toward our chess count for the powerful chess cards we've got. 3 copies of Merlin, 3-cost 3/2 Fanfare. Search your deck for a spell, reveal it, add it to your hand. The main things you're going to be searching for here are the 3-cost chess spells, Checkmate and Skewer, or Dimension Shift to make sure you have it for your finisher turn. Alternatively, if you're playing Merlin once you've already got your finisher set up, you may be searching Truth's Adjudication as an extra source of burn damage to finish off your opponent. Merlin evolves for 2 play points into a 4/3. On evolve, select a spell that costs 3 play points or less in your cemetery and play it for 0. This is basically going to be the same chess cards that you would be searching otherwise, or the Truth's Adjudication to get an extra instance of the deal 3 damage. The really strong thing here is that Checkmate and Skewer, they're both just very over-spec spells, so being able to cast them off of Merlin is really where a lot of the extra power in this deck comes from that it didn't have previously. And we'll look more at what those do as we get to those cards. But they're definitely, they make Merlin worth having the 3 evos of, I think. The last old chess card we play is Check. This is 3-cost, deal 4 damage to an enemy follower. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may reveal a chess card with a different name from among them, add it to your hand, put the rest on the bottom in any order. So that can get you Blitz, Magical Strategy, Checkmate, or Skewer. Ideally, you're getting Checkmate or Skewer, but worst case scenario, you're at least replacing it in hand if you can find a target. Though sometimes you'll just end up missing, and this is just a 3-cost removal spell that, you know, it's another chess name in your cemetery, which is good enough. Now for the big card, Checkmate. This is really the most powerful chess card, I think, that really sets this deck up in a much better position than it was before. So for 3 play points, you deal each enemy follower on the field damage equal to the number of chess cards in your cemetery. So we play 13 total chess cards in the deck. Really, if you can get 4 or 5, that is enough for Checkmate to board wipe most things. If you get 6, you're really board wiping everything. Decks aren't really playing more than that you would need a wide removal spell for. You have other better single target ways to remove just individual tall threats. But for 3 play points, that means you can board wipe and do other things to progress your game plan at the same time, as opposed to other decks where playing things like Conflagration or Themist Decree are costing 5 play points and using up the entirety of a turn. In addition, since it only costs 3, Merlin can recast it, which is going to be able to, again, for very low cost, board wipe your opponent. The main times you're going to be using this are against things like Earthright, where they may play Faust and get Magic Mirror off of it to bring back a Caradwin, and now they have a 4-4 and a 5-5, which would otherwise be hard to answer with a single card. Or against decks like Sword, where they're able to very easily go wide off of a single card from hand. You don't want to be spending more cards than that to answer their single card, especially when they have a lot of stats going on here. A board like this is very easily a 6-5, 3-3, 1-1. If they play, say, Monochrome Duel, they'll have a 5-4, 3-3, 2-1, 2-1 or something. Being able to just answer all of that with a single card keeps you in the game against those matchups, and it's where the deck really struggled the most previously. Skewer is our other new chess card. For 3 play points, you choose one. If there are at least 5 chess cards in your cemetery, you'll choose 2 modes instead. The first option is that each opponent buries a follower. This is really good against things with Aura. So Liad, Heavenly Aegis, Beauty and the Beast. There's actually a ton of cards out there with Aura, but the ones that do exist, especially Liad, can be very problematic. So making your opponent bury it instead of needing to target it yourself can be a very good way to get rid of these cards. Otherwise, it's just, if you can play like a Fire Chain or something to remove your opponent's small followers and then play this, force them to sack their 6/6 or whatever. Without needing a 6 damage removal spell. So if they only have one guy, this is just unconditional removal. The other 2 options are to gain 3 life or draw 2 cards. Early in the game, you may be using the removal effect here, especially to answer just tall threats. However, as the game progresses and you have enough chess cards in your cemetery for checkmate to be more powerful, you'll quite frequently do things like, on 6 play points, play a Skewer to draw 2, heal 3. The Skewer itself will build toward your chess count, and then just jam like a checkmate to deal 6 to everything, and that's going to be tall enough to answer all their good cards anyway. So it's a very flexible card. Even into the late game, you have plenty of option evolving Merlin to either like make them sack a follower and then you heal 3, or make them sack a follower, you draw 2. Just any combination of those sort of things can be very powerful. The card gives you a lot of flexibility. Our last 3-cost spell is Truth's Adjudication. For 3 play points, choose one of the following. If there are at least 2 mage followers on your field, choose up to 2 instead. That's very unlikely to happen unless you somehow stick 2 Merlins on board. Option 1 is to draw 2 cards. You're basically never going to be using that. Option 2 is to deal 3 damage to each enemy leader, which is your primary option here. Or option 3, deal 3 damage to an enemy follower on the field. Hopefully you're not having to use that one. You have way better ways to deal 3 damage. As I said, the main option here is to deal 3 damage to each enemy leader. And on your finisher turns, you can play Merlin, search this card, play it, deal 3 damage to them, evolve the Merlin, deal 3 more damage to them, which extends your second D-shift turn kill range by 6 damage. Since the earliest you can D-shift is turn 7 anyways, on turn 8 you'll always have enough play points to play Merlin, play Truth's Adjudication, and evolve Merlin, which can really help you get kills on decks that are just a little bit out of range otherwise. Next we have Flame Destroyer. This is the 9-cost 7/7 from set 1. I've just realized that I've pasted the promo image on here by mistake, which means Decklog probably has the promo as well. Whoops. Exclude duplicates. You've failed me once more. 9-cost 7/7. Spell Chain 5, it costs 3 less. Spell Chain 10, it costs 6 less. Spell Chain 15, it costs 9 less. And it has Rush. So once you get 15 spells in your cemetery, this is a 0-cost 7/7 Rush. 7 defense is very important here. It does mean that this is a body you can play on the first turn to attack and clear a ward on the board, which opens up the way for your Celestial Shikigami, and then on the second turn, you can just attack your opponent's face for 7. You only play 1 because it's not very good otherwise, and it doesn't entirely scale down like Kuon, where every card in Cemetery reduces its cost. It's just every 5 reduces it by 3. So you can end up in awkward situations where you have, like, 11 or 12, but it still costs, 3 play points. And that might be too much to just jam it. So you're really not wanting to play this until you have all 15. Next we have Dimension Shift, our 12 cost spell and our primary win condition. When playing this, you can banish 10 spells in your cemetery. It costs 7 play points to play instead of 12. And then the effect, of course, is to take another turn. So once we get our cemetery set up and play all of our big followers for 0 play points is the goal. We can banish a bunch of stuff from our cemetery, take an extra turn, untap with everything that we played for 0, and turn it all sideways into our opponent's face, which will hopefully be enough to kill them and end the game. And then, of course, our last follower, the 15 cost 5/5 Kuon, founder of Onmyodo, costs 1 less to play for every spell and Onmyoji card in your cemetery. So once you get to 15, similar to Flame Destroyer, this will be a 0-drop 5/5, which, fanfare, if there's no Celestial Shikigami on your field, summon one. That is a 4/5 with Aura. And then you can engage Kuon to give up to 2 Shikigami followers on your field Storm. So you can give the Celestial Shikigami, and if you have any paper Shikigamis that you summon with Shikigami Summon, of course, you can give them Storm as well. So sometimes if you're not going off until later turns, you might have 9 play points. You can play Shikigami Summons and Kuon, give 6 Storm damage, and then play Dimension Shift, untap, and then get in for 11 more damage. That's 17 on its own already. A Merlin can get you Truth's Adjudication to burn your opponent up to 23. That's enough for most decks, even without needing a second Kuon or Flame Destroyer, but your range only gets higher the more you have. The deck as a whole is pretty straightforward in terms of strategy. It's really just a game of managing which removal spells go where and what cards you discard at what time, or what cards you search at what time. Those are the main things to learn. Otherwise, your win condition of get 15 spells in grave, jam Kuon and Flame Destroyer, kill your opponent is fairly straightforward. The pros of the deck are that you have a vast suite of removal that can hold most decks in the format back as long as you can draw them and get them set up in time. And you have a largely uninteractive top end that can kill through high leader defense. All of your cards essentially have Storm because of Dimension Shift, and if you have 2 Dimension Shifts, they get to attack, as many as 3 times, which can chunk your opponent from 30 to 40 life down to 0 pretty easily, and no decks really heal that high this format anyway. The cons of the deck, however, are that you can struggle against decks that make wide boards faster than you can set Checkmate up. Decks like Sword, if you're not finding enough chess cards early, can go wide with things like Floral Fencer on 3, Prudent General on 4, and may be able to kill you before you're able to really hold them back. Just playing spells to remove 1 follower a turn is not going to be enough to save you. And the other issue is that top-end pieces can clog your hand in the early and mid-game. If you draw all of your Kuons and Flame Destroyers early, you don't want to discard them because you have no way to recur them. But at the same time, if they're just sitting in your hand, they are not removal, and you can very well die as a result of that. They're also not spells that you can be playing or discarding to fill your win condition quicker, like fill your cemetery. So they really just slow you down altogether, and that's why we only play things like 2 Dimension Shift and 1 Flame Destroyer. So here is the deck as a whole once again. 13 chess cards, and the rest is pretty standard Kuon shell that we've been playing since set 6, just plus the addition of Veridic Discovery from set 8. Evo deck, simple as it gets. Of course, as always, you can check the deck log page using the code 176Z8 or the link in the description. Before we close this out, though, I do want to look at a couple other cards. Just got 2 here. That decks will frequently, one that decks will frequently play, one that did recently win a Grand Showdown, and I want to mention because Gordon will be mad at me if I don't. But first up, Sorcery Cache. This card is one that you'll often see over like the Shikigami summons slot, and it's just a bit of a trade-off. You don't get the token, but you do get the ability to replace itself in hand without needing to hit the threshold of 7 spells in Cemetery first. This makes it much better in the very early turns, I think. Since you're able to dig 4 cards, go ahead and start. So it's top 4, add 1 spell to hand, 1 spell to cemetery, and bottom the rest. So it replaces itself in hand, and then additionally gets 2 total spells into your cemetery. 1 from playing the sorcery cache, and then 1 additional one from whatever you mill. This can get chest cards into your cemetery quickly, and then also just dig for your cards like Checkmate and Skewer. The downside, it doesn't give you a body to pressure your opponent with or to swing as removal into them, like Shikigami Summons does. So that is a bit of a drawback when comparing the two. And in the late game, when you're going for Kuon turns and already have the 7 in Cemetery, Shikigami Summons will generally be more powerful. So that's some trade-off there. Otherwise, you don't really want to cut anything else for Sorcery Cache, just because you need all the removal you have. You can't really afford to cut things like Fire Chains or Angelic Snipes, I don't think. But Sorcery Cache is something to consider nonetheless. The other card here is Mr. Heinlein Shadow Mage. So very few decks actually play this card, but Gordon, the GOAT, winner of the North American Grand Showdown in Mexico City, who has now beaten my ass twice with this deck in the Sword matchup. He swears by Heinlein, and he has good reason behind it. It's a 5-cost 4/4 Fanfare. Put the top 4 cards of your deck into your cemetery. You recover play points equal to the number of spells you mill with the ability. This means that you can very easily have like 8 or 9 play point turns on turn 5. While also milling 4, which can turbocharge your cemetery very quickly. It can help get you to the turn 7 and 8 kill turns more consistently. Downside being is that like sometimes you just mill like a Kuon and a Flame Destroyer, and not only do you not get very many spells in cemetery or play points back, you also just lost 2 of your like attackers for win conditions. But in addition to fueling your cemetery there and being a potentially 1 to 2 play point body, Mr. Heinlein is a 4/4, which is pretty reasonable stat line that if your opponent does not answer it, can swing for 4 or 8 damage on subsequent D-shift turns. So you play this on turn 6, and it sets you up for the turn 7 D-shift. Your opponent has to answer it, or that's 8 additional range you get. And he has an activated ability to engage and discard a spell to deal 4 damage to an enemy follower. That's pretty good removal on its own, but it also gives an additional discard out for Trail of Light, which can draw you extra cards to dig toward even more win conditions, or it can discard chess cards for free to help set up better checkmate numbers or get you to skewer range. So overall, very flexible card. It has a lot of application. If you wanted to fit it in this deck, you would probably have to do something like cutting 1 Merlin and 1 Magic Owl, I believe would be closest to what Gordon has done. That might actually put you on his exact list. If you cut 1 Magic Owl and 1 Merlin for 2 Heinleins. His list will be up on the official website soon. I don't know if it's there yet as of the time of recording this. But yeah, Heinlein's pretty good. I just don't have it in this list because I think it is a little harder to play, and maybe not as necessary as he makes it out to be. But it is quite a powerful card, and you should try it. And if you like it, you should put it in the deck. Otherwise, thank you for watching. That's all I've got on this deck. Somehow this ended up being a shorter one, but I think it's because this deck really is quite straightforward. Despite being a very powerful like combo control deck, it doesn't really have any intricate plays outside of being very good at like threat management and just resource management in general. But yeah, I think it's a very powerful deck. Definitely one of the tier 1 decks this format, and something you should watch out for going into the summer fests. Let me know what decks you'd like to see in the future. I'm of course going to keep recording the new set 10 decks to upload. And until I get those up, you should have some videos on the screen to check out. So thank you, and I'll see you all next time.